Essential Progressive Rock Albums, episode 572. It's not really, this is actually the first one I've done, but we'll carry on, shall we? This is going to be short and sweet. A new idea I've had is to, start making short videos. Oh, you're very clever, Andy. Very creative. Essential albums. I'm not saying these are the best albums. They're just albums that I think if you're a progressive rock fan, you should have a check out if you haven't checked out. And if you have checked them out, you'll know I'm right. Now, I've had a bit of a go at Rush, and I absolutely love Rush. I think Rush are one of the greatest bands of all time, but their fans are very, what shall we say, loyal. And they do not like Rush being in any way questioned as being the greatest band of all time and one of the greatest progressive rock bands of all time. The thing with Rush is their progressive rock window actually is very small. They're definitely moving towards progressive rock on Fly By Night and Caress of Steel, and by the time they get to 2112, that's an absolute masterpiece. They follow up 2112 with the album I'm going to be talking about today, which is Farewell to Kings. Then we get Hemispheres, and then by Permanent Waves of Moving Pictures, we're still progressive rock albums, but they're moving away from progressive rock. So we could really see, in a 50-year career, we can see that we're really talking about a handful of albums, 6, 7 albums. If you are new to progressive rock and you want to check out Rush and you love progressive rock, or you're sort of an old school progressive rock person and you've never really checked out Rush, this is the album you go for. Farewell to Kings, that came out in 1976. Very brilliant album. In many ways one of Rush's best albums, and perhaps their best really full out prog album, although I think Hemispheres rivals it, but Hemispheres doesn't quite have the breadth and reach of this album. This album came out in 1976, and I've always felt the title Farewell to Kings points to the awareness that times are changing, that Rush have come in doing this sort of progressive rock style, but by 1976, singing songs about jesters and kings and, forest sprites and Tolkien-esque characters walking through dense forests full of mythical spiders, all that type of stuff that we prog fans love. But perhaps they need to move on. They didn't quite do that. Hemispheres is still pretty proggy, but it's a lot more philosophical. By the time we get to Permanent Waves, Neil Peart's lyrics have changed, and it's much more about contemporary stuff. So this one this is full on prog. Contains a whole bunch of masterpieces. I've got the it's not the original vinyl, but I bought this about 40 years ago. There's the inside with all the lyrics and the fantastic picture of Rush looking very, well, not so much Geddy, I suppose. He's slouched a bit, but the others look very English aesthetic. Look at Neil Peart's boots and his moustache. They do look like English country gentlemen. And so they should, because this album was recorded out in Rockfield, a venue I've recorded in many, many times. Rockfield is situated in South Wales on the borders of England, out in the countryside, and was the first ever residential studio in the world. And if you decamped there, you got to stay there all the time. They had, because it was a residential studio. You've just told them that, Andy. So Rush came over to Britain. They, when they weren't recording, they would have been walking around the fields, listening to the birds singing, having cups of tea, eating bacon sandwiches, all the things British people do. And I think it really comes into this album, literally, because it opens up with Farewell to Kings. And Neil opens up with these lines: when they turn the pages of history, when the days have passed long ago, will they read of us with sadness for the seeds that we let grow? We turned our gaze from castles in the distance, eyes cast down on the path of least resistance. So he's almost lamenting the idea of turning away from these sort of progressive rock themes and the romanticism of that. And I am totally 100% with him. This album starts up with an acoustic guitar that pans across from one ear to the other, and that was actually recorded outside at Rockfield. You could hear the ambience, you can hear the birds tweeting, you can even hear the sheep rustling if you've really got a good system. Farewell to Kings is a short but sweet full-on prog track, one of their greatest tunes ever, and then it's followed by Xanadu, which is I would say is an epic. It's 11 minutes long. But what it tries to pull off in those 11 minutes is quite incredible. This is where Rush start to deliver epics that make sense. I always felt up to this point, even on 2112, they're just patching together little ideas, like almost like they've got 5 songs and they just pull those together. Xanadu is not like that. It's written as one through composed piece, and it's a brilliant piece of composition. They famously recorded this in the studio live, which is quite incredible. But if you saw them play it live, and they play it live on Exit Stage Left, you can see that they were able, just the 3 of them, to pull out all the multitude of sounds, which makes this track absolutely incredible. And it tells a tale of a very very apt progressive rock subject, which is the idea of Kubla Khan building Xanadu, where he could live together forever and then get cursed by his own immortality. Turn it over and you have their sort of first hit record, Closer to the Heart, nice and catchy. Then we get Cinderella Man. Cinderella Man is a little bit of a drop. It's a great song, but it's not up with the level of all these. Still, it's a really great song. That's followed by Madrigal, which is a sort of the quiet song on the album. It's good, but it's not in the masterpiece level. And then it finishes with another epic, Cygnus X1. And Cygnus X1 is like opening the door to the future, because we're no longer in the realm of, sword and sorcery. We're now looking at dystopian futures. We're now looking at philosophical ideas. And it's about a spaceship, which is a metaphor for Don Quixote, riding out and looking at windmills and all that sort of stuff, flying into the heart of a black hole. On the next album, that spaceship reappears, and it's in this new realm of the hemispheres, which represent the great dialectic, something which is the underpinning idea of this channel. Right, so, where do I get all these ideas? Initially, from this band Rush. This is a fantastic album, and like I said, if we're talking about masterpiece Rush tracks, Farewell to Kings, Xanadu, Closer to the Heart, and Cygnus X1 are all essential tracks. If I was doing a best of Rush, those tracks would all have to go on, all of them. Cinderella Man and Madrigal are almost there. We're talking 8, 9 out of 10. So the hit rate on this is pretty high. Now, on the follow-up album, Hemispheres, I would say The Trees is essential Rush, La Villa Straggiato is essential Rush. And although I love the great long Hemispheres epic on side 1, it does go on a little bit for some listeners. It's hardcore Rush. And then there's another track on that opens up with Circumstances. That's really good, again, 8 or 9 out of 10. I don't feel they reach masterpiece level to perhaps Moving Pictures, where every single track is essential. And Permanent Waves is pretty close to that. So we have a run of genius albums. When we get to Signals, very interesting albums, but they're going on a different path. For progressive rock fans, this is the one. If you're going to have one, it's not 2112, it's this one. So if you haven't got it, go and get it. And if you've got it, you know what I'm talking about. So thanks for watching this video. If you did like this short and sweet style, you can... what they can do, they can like and subscribe. Click the like now, subscribe, and if you want to support me, you can go over to Patreon and become one of my patrons and get all sorts of things that you don't get on this channel. And if you want to support me financially and give me a little tip because you enjoyed this video, I have a tip jar down below, virtual tip jar. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.